Imagine walking into the world's oldest, most unforgiving desert in the dead of night. You look down and the ground is literally glowing. You don't need a shovel, you don't need heavy machinery. You just reach down into the sand and you pick up handfuls of flawless raw diamonds. This isn't a myth, this actually happened. And the people who found these diamonds built a sprawling billion-dollar Bavarian utopia right in the middle of the wasteland. They had grand stone mansions, they had a daily delivery of free ice, they even had a pet ostrich that pulled a Christmas sleigh through the scorching sand. For a brief moment in time, this bizarre settlement had the highest per capita wealth of any town on the entire planet. But today, it is completely abandoned. The billionaires are gone, the grand theaters are silent, and the relentless desert dunes have swallowed the mansions whole. So how does a town that controlled 12% of the global diamond supply just vanish almost overnight? And what terrifying secret were they hiding inside their state-of-the-art hospital? The answer to that is going to completely change how you look at the diamond industry forever. To understand this sheer absurdity, we have to rewind to 1908. We are in the Namib Desert on the southwestern coast of Africa. This is a place of towering, shifting dunes, howling winds, and zero fresh water. It is totally hostile to human life. The German Empire had claimed the territory, but mostly just to build a lonely railway line through the sand. That railway required constant maintenance because the dunes never stopped moving. Enter a man named Zacharias Lewala. He was a black railway worker tasked with a brutal, endless job. He had to shovel the creeping desert sands off the train tracks to keep the trains from derailing. But Lewala had a secret advantage. He used to work in the famous diamond fields of South Africa. He knew exactly what raw wealth looked like. One evening in the low light, he saw a shimmer in the sand. He picked it up. He knew what it was. Following the strict rules of the time, he handed the rough stone to his supervisor, a German railway inspector named August Stauch. Stauch was skeptical. He took the stone and scraped it hard against the glass face of his wristwatch. It left a deep, permanent scratch. The ultimate proof. It was a diamond. In that single moment, the fate of the entire desert changed. Stauch quietly secured massive prospecting licenses and became an overnight millionaire. He built a vast global empire, but the man who actually found the stone, Zacharias Lewala, received absolutely nothing. Not a single cent. He vanished from the historical record entirely, becoming the first victim of the town's original sin. Word got out and the frenzy began. Fortune hunters flooded the wasteland. But here's the craziest part about this initial diamond rush. They didn't have to dig. The geological forces of the Namib Desert had already done the work of 1,000 mining machines. Millions of years of ferocious winds had blown away the lighter sand, leaving the heavier diamond gravel perfectly exposed on the surface of the desert floor. Men literally crawled on their hands and knees across the baking earth, picking up match head-sized diamonds with metal tweezers and dropping them into glass jars. The sheer volume of gems was incomprehensible. European managers actually ordered the workers to be gagged while they worked. Why? To keep the blinding sand out of their mouths, sure, but mostly to stop them from swallowing the diamonds and smuggling them out of the camps. The absolute peak of this madness was a geographic depression they named Fairy Tale Valley. The concentration of diamonds here was so unbelievably dense that prospectors didn't even need daylight to find them. They would just wait for the moon to rise and pick up the gleaming stones illuminated against the dark gravel. By 1912, this tiny patch of desert was churning out 1 million carats a year. That was nearly 12% of the world's entire diamond supply. The German government panicked at the free-for-all, immediately fencing off a massive 26,000 square kilometer zone. They called it the Forbidden Zone. Heavily armed police patrolled the dunes on camels. Independent prospectors were locked out. A corporate mega monopoly took total control, and with that monopoly came an avalanche of cash. The town they built was named Kolmanskop. The psychological contrast of this place was staggering. Emerging from a terrifying, waterless landscape was a pristine, highly structured European town with Bavarian architecture. They built grand stone mansions with steeply pitched roofs meant to shed heavy winter snow. In Africa, everything from heavy wooden window frames to floral wallpaper was imported directly from Germany. They used their limitless capital to completely ignore their geographical reality. Fresh water did not exist here, so they established a massive logistical chain. Every month, a ship left Cape Town carrying 1,000 1,000 tons of fresh water, sailed roughly 1,000 kilometers up the coast, and pumped it into specialized railway cars. Every European resident was given 20 liters of free imported water a day. If you wanted more for an excessive bath, you could buy it. Ironically, water cost exactly half the price of imported beer. They built a massive power station. It powered one of the most absurd amenities you could imagine in a desert environment, an industrial ice factory. They had the very first tram system in Africa, and every morning a mule-drawn tram delivered a block of freshly made ice, a case of lemonade, and a case of soda water right to the doorsteps of the wealthy residents, free of charge. They had a bakery making fresh bread daily, a butcher shop making authentic Viennese sausages, a general store stocked with French champagne and beluga caviar. They built a massive cavernous theater with perfect acoustics, paying exorbitant fees to ship famous European opera troupes all the way across the ocean just to entertain them. They even built a traditional German bowling alley beneath the theater with an automated pin resetting system. The wives of the executives imported heavy corsets and dresses from Paris, hosting elaborate tea dances while a resident orchestra played the waltz and the Charleston. The desert winds raged against the reinforced glass outside, but inside it was pure, unadulterated luxury. But this utopia was a horrific illusion. It is impossible to talk about the extreme opulence of Kolmanskop without talking about the extreme violence that built it. The diamond boom happened just years after a brutal genocide in the region. Indigenous tribes had been driven into the waterless desert to die or forced into brutal concentration camps. The survivors, whose land had been stolen to create the massive diamond zone, were funneled directly into the mines as a captive, highly exploitable workforce. While the Europeans drank champagne on Millionaires' Row, the indigenous workers were confined to cramped, strictly segregated barracks. They worked under intense surveillance and horrific physical labor in the searing sun. They were entirely separated from their families for years at a time, and the paranoia of the Diamond Syndicate knew no bounds. They knew workers were desperate. They knew workers were trying to smuggle diamonds out to survive. The methods were ingenious. Hollowed out boot heels, strapping stones to carrier pigeons, swallowing the gems. So the executives bought a massive state-of-the-art X-ray machine. It was the very first operational X-ray machine in the entire Southern Hemisphere, but it wasn't for treating broken bones or tuberculosis in the hospital. It was weaponized as a tool of corporate security. Every single worker nearing the end of their grueling contract was forced to undergo compulsory X-ray scans before they were allowed to leave the compound. This medical marvel was turned into an instrument of bodily violation, completely exposing the intense dehumanization and paranoia that this glittering empire was actually built on. And then, almost as fast as it began, the empire crumbled. World War I struck. South African troops invaded and captured the town. The German Empire lost all its colonies. Global diamond prices crashed due to post-war inflation. But the real death blow came from the earth itself. The relentless, mechanized extraction had severely depleted the surface fields. The fairy tale valley was totally empty. Digging deeper into the bedrock cost way too much money while yielding fewer stones. And then, in 1928, prospectors made a paradigm-shifting discovery 270 kilometers to the south, right on the border with South Africa. They found the richest diamond-bearing deposits ever recorded in human history, sitting on ancient marine beach terraces. The stones were larger, clearer, and literally just sitting in the loose coastal sand. The economic gravity of the entire region violently shifted. The exodus began. The mining conglomerate systematically relocated all its assets, machinery, and labor south to the new fields. Kolmanskop suffered a slow, agonizing hemorrhage. By the late 1930s, the Grand Opera House was silent. The ice factory operated at a fraction of its capacity. Families began to just pack up their cars and drive away. Transporting heavy goods across hundreds of kilometers of desert was astronomically expensive, so they made a calculated choice. They left everything. They left massive imported oak wardrobes, cast iron bed frames, intricately carved dining tables. Children's toys were left scattered on bedroom floors. Rusty kettles remained on kitchen stoves. In the hospital, that infamous X-ray machine was left to rust in the sandy corridors. Traditional German garments still hang undisturbed in the wardrobes today, waiting for owners who will never return. By 1956, the final stragglers conceded defeat. Kolmanskop was completely abandoned to the silence of the Namib. The second the humans stopped maintaining the town, the desert launched a relentless assault. Without the railway workers shoveling the sand, the dunes marched forward. The heavy wooden doors were blown off their hinges by coastal gales. Smooth undulating sand dunes flooded the narrow hallways. Inside the luxurious mansions, waves of golden sand now reach halfway up the brightly painted walls, completely swallowing the bathtubs and the furniture. The roofs collapsed, allowing beams of intense African sun to illuminate the peeling, floral German wallpaper. It is a profound, lifeless silence, broken only by the howling of the wind and the soft whisper of sand cascading over the crests of the indoor dunes. It is a perfectly preserved mid-century time capsule being slowly digested by the Earth. It is the ultimate monument to human hubris. August Stauch, the man who started the entire rush, lost his vast fortune during the Great Depression and died in financial ruin. The desert's wealth was a mirage, but the unchecked greed that built Kolmanskop didn't disappear when the town did. It just evolved, because if you think the diamond monopolies of the 1900s were ruthless, you need to see the terrifying lengths modern cartels will go to control the essential resources sitting inside your smartphone right now, which is exactly what I break down in this video right here. We find the weirdest, coolest things happening around the world, so if you want to uncover more of these stories, hit subscribe.